biomass. And put some on the same bed, then the rest we can feed to any of these beds. We use it mostly as a mulch. Like you can see all across the garden, we have the leaves on the ground. They function as a useful resource for us to protect the soil, and over time add carbon to the whole system as well, biomass to the whole system. While we do our prunings, all these green material that we just chuck back on top of the beds, they will break down together with the leaves, and basically that's in situ composting. So all these material will break down and eventually be food for the soil organisms. The way we do our agriculture, our priority is the long-term health of the soil. So most of the decisions we do, practices we do, primarily are to improve the soil while growing some food. The growing food is sometimes a second priority. I'm Marcus. I founded Habitat Collective together with Alexis, my partner, who is somewhere in the backdrop working on the garden. So Habitat Collective I like the name Habitat because it encompasses what we're trying to create. We're trying to create systems that are working with nature, right? So Habitat gives a sense of things being in a place where they're very comfortable being, and also in a place where they can live off. And I think that applies to not just humans, but also the things we require, to the living things that are that needs to be in the ecosystem where we require to live off. I've kind of been a farmer for maybe about 7 years, and a big part of my foundation as a farmer is the environmental side of things and the anti-capitalist side of things, which found me very, very well suited to the practice and philosophy of permaculture. I studied anthropology in college, and that gave me a very critical lens to look at the world that we're in. And living in Singapore, it's very apparent that how our society is constructed and how the direction in which the world is going, we are depleting our resources and ability for future generations to continue living well on Earth. And I think that's very largely due to the main system that drives our world now, which is capitalism, the accumulation of capital, which coincides with the accumulation of resources that comes from a limited world. That got me thinking a lot about, what meaningful thing can be done in my life, and I believe that, I think through food and agriculture as a medium, that's a way to change, to empower people and to potentially provide a counterforce to capitalism. We call this system our market garden. It's a system mostly for growing annuals that you usually see at a weekend market. So a lot of your leafy greens and your fruit vegetables, that's the focus of this part of the farm. So here you have beans. In front of me you have okras. And the okras are growing together with brinjals, which will now while they're young benefit from the shade of the okras. So we also do some degree of no-till. So we till heavily the first time we work on the bed. That's because we are working with extremely clay soil, and there's no life in the soil to begin with, so there's no harm in tilling at the start. It makes it a lot easier for the rest of the work to be more effective later. So tilling is the process of disturbing the soil usually through a rotational mechanism that goes in the soil and breaks up to a certain depth, breaks up all the chunks of soil, breaks up all the plant material that usually is from the previous crop, from the agriculture, and at the end of it, the soil kind of returns to a state of looseness and fine particles. Makes it a lot easier as a blank slate to plant out another crop. Every time you till, you're exposing all the carbon in the soil to the atmosphere, which allows a lot of the carbon to escape into the atmosphere. That's one of the biggest ways modern agriculture contributes to climate change. So if you don't till, you don't have that effect. And you don't potentially damage the soil life in your soil. In our status quo, Singapore will always be an import nation, at least in the near future. So we're fine with the status quo. We'll continue to import our nice salmons, our nice tunas, our fancy stuff from all over the world. So we don't really need a solution for that. What we need a solution for is to prepare for something where we don't have that status quo anymore. In a more drastic scenario, where we need to be able to provide our own food for our people in Singapore, it needs to be a holistic provision for that. What these hydroponic farms grow are mostly leafy vegetables. It makes sense because leafy vegetables are at least 95% water content. So a hydroponic system can grow that pretty well because it's a water system. I guess leafy vegetables are very popular in Singapore now because we are a nation of people sitting in offices behind a screen. So people have to watch their diet, right, to stay in shape. And eating low caloric food are more popular because of that. But low calorie foods, because it's low calorie, will not feed a nation in hunger because when you don't have food, what you need then is things that give you the most calories or the most carbohydrates. And that generally would be non-leafy vegetables. Your fruit vegetables, your grains, your root vegetables, all these will become a lot more important from a food security standpoint. If we are putting all our resources in developing systems which are not able to grow any of these foods, then when we actually require them, we don't have the resources or the expertise to do that, and we can't feed the nations with just kangkong or kailan or xiao bai cai. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, so our chickens are here. Checking on the food waste. Yeah, we are very proud of our chickens. So this system here is our composting system. Basically, we have a lane for organic material to collect. And we let it pile up and break down and get scratched down by the chickens. So again, we are using a natural behavior of chickens to create something useful for us, in this case composting. So once in a while we have to pile it up a little bit higher so you facilitate entice the chickens to want to scratch it down a little bit more. So this is almost done already. I think it still needs maybe about 2 more weeks. We put it in here, the chickens will scratch it, it will continue to break down a little bit. And these are the brown leaves. So this will fill out over the course of this week, and then the end of the week, this will kind of be moved down, and that can pile up in here. So we'll open this latch up, and then the chickens can start scratching this pile down. So we use the force of gravity as well. And chickens generally want to scratch from high to low. I think people don't have to become vegetarian or vegan. Animals are part of a very healthy ecosystem, and we are also part of that ecosystem, right? We are somewhat managers of it. So I'm fine with eating meat, fine with eating chickens, but I think what's important is being participatory in that process. So being able to thank the chicken for its life, and then make sure that what you do with the chicken is extremely yummy and delicious and you don't waste any of it. It's a very rewarding experience. And you don't feel like you've done anything wrong, in that process. It's all part of life and a healthy life system to be involved in that. I think the problem with the world nowadays is, we're eating too much meat, and that's because we are so alienated from the process, right? Especially in Singapore. Before I got into farming, I didn't eat vegetables. So yeah, so for most of my life I like hated vegetables and I just ate meat. The only vegetables I ate was seaweed and potatoes. But since I got into agriculture, I had to eat the food I grew. So yeah, that got me to appreciate it a lot more. So I guess that's the biggest change in my life. Like I eat vegetables now. Working with natural systems has I guess slowly over time made me appreciate the complexity of the natural systems itself, and recognizing that our place is a very small place within that larger scheme of things. Yeah. And what we do as all this environmental stuff is not really to protect nature, it's more to protect ourselves, with the understanding that if we damage nature, it will work back against us in even greater ways. Yeah. The earth will be fine, nature will be fine, but we will not. What is required is mindset change, that the way we live now is not going to help our future generation. Yeah. And if more people understand that, there could be a stronger push for change, I think. So the reality is that change is very slow. Yeah. And it's not so easy to earn a living doing what we're doing. I think there still is the thinking that farming or working the land or working with soil or anything, if your job is under the sun, then it's considered menial labor and a low, like something that should be left for poorly educated people. But going to what we do, there's a lot to learn. There's so much to get right, in terms of designing systems, in terms of understanding plants, ecology, and the complex system around nature that we as permaculture people need to understand to work with. So yeah, I think it's a space for. I think it should be a space for highly educated people, but educated in a different way from what education is in Singapore now. Yeah. Yeah, so we harvest this. This is Ulam Raja, which means king of salad. This is a herb native to our region, Singapore, Malaysia. In traditional Malay cuisine, it's very important, and therefore it's Raja, right? King of salad. So traditionally, it's dipped in sambal and eaten raw like that. Nowadays, we use it in a dish called nasi ulam. So it's basically a rice dish mixed with a lot of fresh herbs, flavored with a few other things. Yeah, we can eat it fresh. To me and to most people, it has a green mango kind of flavor, especially the flowers. Right now, these are quite young, so they don't have flowers, but the flowers are very sweet, and they're very beautiful, so we use them as garnishes as well in some of our dishes. Because we grow a lot of it, we can't eat enough of it. Whenever we want, there's always some to harvest and eat. Because they grow fast and grow well, because they're native to our region, we are using it partly as a biomass plant. Biomass is organic material. If we think about how we do our agriculture, where we want to feed the soil, biomass, when placed on the soil, will break down and become food for all the soil organisms in the soil in some way. So by generating a lot of biomass and applying it onto your beds, you are feeding the soil. You're feeding the soil to some extent. And then that will bring fertility to kind of the surface of the soil. So it makes it a lot easier for more agriculturally important crops to grow. Because if you think about it, wild crops can grow anywhere because their root systems are very adaptable. They can just penetrate through things, get all the nutrients they want. But more agricultural crops are used to, like, for example, a tillage system, right, where they grow in very loose soil, and all the nutrients are somewhere at the surface. So to give these plants fertility, we don't expect their roots to grow deep, like 50 centimeters in the soil. So we are using easy growing plants like the Ulam Raja, like the Mexican sunflower, that can take nutrients from deeper in the soil, take nutrients that might be less accessible to other agriculturally important plants, put them in their bodies, which we then harvest and place on top of, like, for example, this bit where we have okras and chilies growing. And then as they break down, the nutrients become available to these plants to grow. Yeah. what we're trying to do is use Habitat Collective as a tool or as a platform in which we want to change how humanity and society live on Earth and in the world in such a way where it's like a habitat lah. It's a more environmentally conscious way of constructing the world we live in and structuring the holistic system that support us. And then that's not just the food part. The food part we see as a very, at least in Singapore, a very good medium in which to communicate a lot of our ideas, because Singaporeans are crazy about food. Like, food is a way to get people in, and from there we can have a lot of conversations about like how we work the land, farming, social structures in which are more aligned with small-scale communities, small-scale agriculture. And through what we create, we hope to change that. So far, what we've done is we've started off by designing and creating a lot of permaculture gardens for people. I think everything we do, it's about spreading the word of permaculture and a different imagination of how people can live in Singapore. It has to start somewhere, I think. Having people have their own gardens and being able to eat a little bit of their gardens it's a good way to get people more involved with the soil, involved with ecology. And I think that's one step towards the direction we want to head. Well, beyond physical projects itself, we are in the works of creating a seed library. All the fruit vegetables we grow here are all heirloom varieties that I've tested and saved seeds from over multiple plant generations to get them acclimatized and naturalized into our climate here. I think seed saving is very important to us because as a criticism of our food culture nowadays, our food system nowadays, where all our food is either, well, we don't deal too much with grains here, so in terms of vegetables, they're all hybrid varieties, and understanding that small-scale farming communities have been damaged quite a bit by the growing reliance on agricultural companies to sell seeds to them, and to that effect also fertilizers and pesticides. We want to be able to grow a food culture where saving seeds from heritage varieties becomes more of a norm than a fringe thing. That's a culture that's very, very much non-existent in Singapore at the moment. So we want to grow a community that appreciates and helps us build that as well. The community is very small. Everyone kind of knows everybody. In that sense, it's also supported by everybody. So in here, actually, on Fridays, we have work parties where volunteers come and help out. That functions, that has multiple benefits, right? People get to come here and enjoy something that we've created here that is very rare in Singapore. But at the same time, they're also contributing, whether it's their expertise or just help, in some of the work that we require to be done here. And the more interactions in that kind of, the more interaction we have that way, the more people we can bring into permaculture and get more interested in permaculture. So yeah, we are supported by these kind of people, but at the same time, we are also trying to push them in the right direction to be the spokespeople of what we do here and to spread the message to the rest, to further out there. Yeah. And this is our pond. We have ducks inside, we have food fish inside. So yeah, this system is a big part of what we do here. We have gurami, we have giant gurami, we have sunhawk. It's very popular in Singapore. And then we have something called tinfoil bud, which gets up to this size. It's like one-person fish. All our fishes are selected to be either native to our bioregion and potentially able to breed and reproduce by themselves inside this pond. Yeah, so the idea is that we get them once, they repopulate themselves, and we don't need to rely on stocks from outside. The population will balance out based on how much food that they can get in the system. We don't feed them anything at all. We only feed the ducks. The shit from the ducks basically drives the whole system. We want to design a system that doesn't rely on piped water. In this case, we have zero reliance on piped water. And then the market garden is also supported by the chicken system. And all the extra green material here can either be used as mulch in either the market garden or as food for the chickens. Yeah. And all that circulates back into the same system to become food for us. Do I get burnt out? Babes, do I get burnt out? Yeah, I think I do. I think she helps a lot with that. Having someone to do this along with you is I think it's quite, like for me, it's a little bit big. We started Habitat Collective together. I think at that point I was a little bit on a burnout phase. Then she brought a lot of energy and encouragement for us to continue moving upwards from there. Having a companion to do this kind of work is quite important. Alone working on a garden, yes, it's nice, but sometimes you can keep it lonely. And to have someone bounce off ideas, it's always helpful. But there's still a little bit of burnout sometimes. I guess in farming, things don't turn out perfect all the time. Like some plants die, some systems don't work the way you want them to, and you can get a bit discouraged. So that sometimes adds to burnout as well. Or I think in Singapore, like the hardest thing is not so much the working with nature or the farming part. It's the people part working with administrative systems, working with regulations. That can provide a lot of stress and discouragement and lead to burnout. So that happens from time to time. I think working on the land is a little bit like meditation, right? After a while, your mind kind of switches off and you start interacting with physical nature in a way that you're comfortable with. I would say I have some experience, so for me it comes a little bit more naturally now in terms of what needs to be done, what to observe. And I think in a complex farm that we have here, there's a lot to, if you sit down and just look and observe, there's a lot to take in. I would say, maybe not spiritually, but there's a lot of information input into me, I think subconsciously, that has changed how I live in the world now. Yeah. I think being an import nation, all our food comes with so many carbon food miles to it. Having things that you can cycle out, to the farm, it's a lofty dream, but I think it's quite possible in Singapore, where we have dense population. So, having a farm that's supported by people living, walking, cycling distance around it could very well be possible, and could be quite beautiful.